Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before I get to our guest, well, first of all, you should recognize our guest. Stephanie is back on the podcast. She was on a little bit more than a year ago, and she's come back on to give us an update on what she's been up to. And, obviously, she looks a little bit different than the last time that we saw her. She's not in prep for a show, and she's transitioned to powerlifting now, so we'll talk to her a little bit about that. But before we get started, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got to ask, what's the weather like in your neck of the woods today?
It's pretty hot and humid. I want to say it's probably in like the mid 80s. It's really humid though. Full blown summer here in the Midwest.
Hey, we had in Minnesota, we've been having crappy weather, like 90 degrees for a week straight, but it's finally gotten better. Like last night, I was out driving until like 2 a.m. just because it was like low 60s with the wind. Oh, it was absolutely perfect out. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
hopefully it's similar to that right now. But obviously, so much has changed. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, how you decided to become a powerlifter this year and what your last year since we last talked has been like?
Oh man, so much has happened since we spoke. Last year I talked to you. I was in prep for two pro shows. I ended up doing both of them. I placed seventh out of 24 at my first one and sixth out of 29 at my second one. So I didn't quite hit my goal of top five, but that's okay because I know the improvements that I need to make. And actually, with me powerlifting, I do believe that it's going to help benefit my physique in the long run. And the judges keep telling me you get tighter in the hams and glutes. So in order to do that, I'm just working on those compound movements and getting as strong and as heavy, like as big as I can. So when it's time to shed off all this fluff, I think I'll be right what they're looking for then.
Well, and that's awesome too. And obviously, I mean, powerlifting is completely different from bodybuilding. What was that adjustment like mentally? Just saying like, because one thing that bodybuilders struggle a lot with is that body dysmorphia, and they don't want to get too big or they don't want to like fluffy wise. I mean, obviously they want to get big, but I mean they struggle with that a lot. What was that like mentally transitioning into powerlifting where you're expected to get a little bit fluffier?
Yeah, of course. So for me, I was in prep actually the beginning of this year. I was 9 weeks out when Corona hit and we were all quarantined. I hit like a low point in my life where I just felt like I had no purpose. I dropped out of my shows. I couldn't go to the gym and lift. And it was just one of those things where I sat around for 11 weeks and had a pity party. And then my gym's opened back up and I talked to the owner. His name is Steve Gentili and he's ranked like number one, number three, and number seven in the world in powerlifting. So I said, I need to find my passion and my drive for lifting again. I was so burnt out, I think, of bodybuilding, 8 years of it without a break. And I just kind of flipped that switch mindset of being in prep, but I flipped it for powerlifting and I ran with it. And I'm falling in love with not only the sport of powerlifting, but I'm falling in love with just training again and working out. And that was really what I was missing in bodybuilding. It became so mundane, like I had to do it. I had to go to the gym. I had to train chest. I had to train shoulders. I had to train legs. Now it's like it's so amazing. I love every single workout, and it's not just about chasing the number, and it's not what I look like right now. Even though I do suffer from body dysmorphia, like you said, most bodybuilders do. For me, it's just about finding my purpose again.
No, and that's so great. And yeah, I've had times too where it's like it just becomes like a chore going to the gym, and you're just like, oh, I really don't want to do this, and it loses the fun out of it. So yeah, it's always great to take a break. But with this powerlifting too, I mean, it's a whole different type of nutrition too, and eating, which is just such a huge part of bodybuilding. It's big in powerlifting too. What were some of the big nutritional changes that you've made over the time that you've decided to take up powerlifting?
So obviously in bodybuilding, you're worried about cutting, being in a caloric deficit whenever you're in prep and cutting those carbs and staying extremely low body fat. So for me in quarantine, I didn't do anything except gain weight. It probably wasn't muscle, but a lot of people know I do gain weight muscle really easily. So as soon as I decided to get into this programming, I hopped on a cycle for strength and we can talk more about that. I'd be happy to tell you what all I'm taking right now and how that differs from bodybuilding. But food wise, on the days that I train, I have carbs and fats in every single meal. And I'm not eating 5 to 6 meals a day. I'm eating like three big meals and then maybe like two snacks. I don't really weigh myself. I don't weigh my food. It's kind of the whole point of me switching over from bodybuilding to powerlifting was to take that pressure off of myself. You're always you have to look a certain way, you have to do this, you have to do that. And so it's really just been for me, I've been able to kind of come up from for air.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, it's always great to just take that time off. And discover new things too. And do you still do like bodybuilding ish workouts maybe on off days or stuff, or do you still train like individual body parts, or are you full on training powerlifting?
So I'm full on in powerlifting mode. I have a competition in like 6.5 weeks. So my coach has me, I squat twice a week, I bench twice a week, and I do deads once a week. After those compound movements, though, I switch to accessories, which is a little bit closer to bodybuilding, but not quite hypertrophy. It's more like 6x8, or I'm sorry, 4x10s, 4x12s. But there's no specific like body part. So on my bench days, I pretty much train all of upper body on that day.
Yeah. No, and that's great to even, just get those accessory works done. But how have your lifts been in powerlifting? What are your best lifts right now as we're talking?
Oh man. So the way that my coach has things set up is we're just slowly gonna peak until we get to the show. And I'm actually gonna hit PRs at the meet, not show. Sorry, see. So when I get there to the meet, we will I'll be hitting PRs. Right now I'm squatting 425. I'm benching around 225, 235, and deadlifts, I'm getting 385 for rep. So I'm not really sure where I'll land in 6.5 weeks, being that I did just start a cycle a couple weeks ago, and this is gonna get really fun now.
And that's, yeah, and who knows, yeah, where it'll be up right now. But one thing that I really wanted to have you back on for, when you said you wanted to come back on, and I mean, you're going to be open about this, and I really appreciate it, is, the steroid use that happens in bodybuilding. And you had a post on Instagram that I can leave a link to down below, where I really appreciated, where you're talking about all that you were on, and the mental side of it and the physical side effects, of being on a cycle. And I mean, it's just so great to finally have someone talk about it. We've had, I mean, like a handful of other guests that are willing to talk about it, and I don't pressure anyone to do it because it's none of my business. But what really made you want to come out about, and finally just talk about, the cycles and the steroid use that you have taken in bodybuilding and now in powerlifting?
Well, I've always been super transparent in my journey and in life. I'm an open book and I have nothing to hide. And if anything that I say can influence or inspire or motivate anyone, then I'm not going to hold back from that. So, absolutely, I'll talk about anything that I've taken. What I'm currently taking is for strength. Like I said, I'm 6 weeks out from a meet. So, right now, I'm on 10 milligrams of Anavar. I'm taking 10 milligrams of Winstraw, and I just started Mastron, and I'm running about 100 milligrams a week. I will up those as it gets closer, and I'm even going to add in some Halo. So Halo testing is super strong. Women should not take it, but in the powerlifting world, it's used for strength, and I'm not using it for aesthetic purposes. So I'm only going to use it for about 2 to 3 weeks at the end and just see what happens. I am one of those people that I can handle a lot of gear and still maintain my femininity and the structure of my face. My voice isn't too deep.
Hmm.
So I've been able to dabble in just about every single thing that's out there. And that's why I'm so open about talking about it, because I want to be able to share my experience. And if that helps anyone else in their journey, then I'm all for it.
Well, and I got to be honest too. For all the guests that I have on that are bodybuilders, Anavar, that's like at least 90% of them are on that. And I'm
Yeah,
just gonna be flat out and
it's
say,
so female friendly.
yeah.
Anavar and Primobolan are probably the two most female friendly steroids that there are. However, Primobolan is the number one most counterfeit drug. So you really have to trust your source. And you can even test some of this stuff too, ladies. So make sure that you're doing that. Make sure that you trust who you're getting it from, and do your research. That would be the biggest thing I could say right now is make sure that you talk to other people that have ran drugs. Read these forums and do your research.
How long into your journey before you start to dabble in steroids?
Yes, so my first year of competing in 2012, I was all natural. I did really well. I won my shows. I won the overalls. Then I decided to hop into a national level show. I didn't do so hot, and it was because I was a natural athlete. And I actually was approached by an expediter at the show, and he said, "You need to take stuff." And I was like, "I don't know what that means." Like I was so novice and new to the industry, I did not know what he was talking about. So he threw out the words clenbuterol, Anavar, HGH, and I did my research and I found a really good supplier and source. I I didn't know how to measure out like units and IUs, so I actually 6 months later found out that I was taking like 5 times more than he actually told me to take. But I ended up putting on a good solid like 30 pounds of mass within a year just from HGH. Then my next drug was Anavar, and so on and so forth. I then jumped into a prep to do women's physique a couple years later, and I started taking T3, clenbuterol. Um, let's see, Anavar, Winstrol, Proviron. It wasn't until 2015 that I first started using my first oils, and that was Mastron. The first time I used Mastron, I would say like the second shot. I remember I was driving in the car and I was trying to sing to the radio, and all of a sudden my voice cracked, and I was like, "Uh oh!" And I swear my voice has never been the same since. But to me, it was how I knew that I was probably at too high of a dose. So I just backed it down a little bit. And now I know what I can tolerate. And I've never pushed it past that because I don't want to, you know, 30 years from now, sit back and like regret the way that I sound or the way that I look because in my younger years, I was trying to chase this dream. And for me, the only way to have longevity in this sport is to be smart about it. And even though it's so extreme, if you don't quit and you just keep out your dreams and your goals and keeping consistent, you will reach them. I've been going out this for 8 years and I want to enjoy it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And one of the things that isn't really talked about, and I think the general public, one of the misconceptions that they have about steroids is that they think that people are always on them constantly. They don't know about cycles. They don't know, like, obviously you're not going to be. I mean, I'm going to just spoil it for everyone out there. You're not taking steroids every single day of your life. You take it in cycles. You don't take it because if you did it every single day, then yeah, you're probably gonna have a lot of problems if you're taking it, even in your off season too. But there's so many side effects, especially for females. What concerns did you have about those to begin with, and have there been, other than the voice crack, have there been other side effects that you've experienced with your steroid use?
Yeah. So, like you said, a lot of women in particular, they like to run things in their off season. I have been blessed and fortunate enough that I actually do not take steroids in my off season for bodybuilding. I just allow my off season for time for resetting and coming off of everything and letting my receptors just kind of heal. And so I typically run things for about 12 to 14 weeks in prep, and that's pretty much it. Now I know I'm not in bodybuilding prep right now. I know I'm in a powerlifting prep, but it's about the same. I started things at about 12 weeks out. I will say though that in my off season, I have ran things like DNP. I have taken anti-estrogens to kind of keep some of the estrogen away and to not gain some of that hip, butt, glute, thigh fat. Currently not running any anti-estrogens, but everything is different for everyone. And for me, I've had really low and mild side effects. Usually when I'm done with a prep and about maybe 3, 4 weeks after the show, my body will start to purge out the oil. And I may have like a slight breakout in my back, a few pimples, that's it. Other than maybe a little bit of like a hoarse voice if I tried to scream or yell. Clitoral growth, that's not necessarily a bad thing to have, but that's kind of it really. I'm very fortunate, like I said, when I run Proviron too high, I do notice hair loss because it is DHT derivative. So I start incorporating a shampoo for DHT blocking, and that really does help. Like I said, I tend to watch my dosage and my sides, and when I know I'm pushing it too far, I scale back.
One thing, another myth that I think people have about steroids is that people think that as soon as you take it, automatically you're just so much bigger and they just think like the first time you take it, you're just like, oh my god, it's so. How long for usually when you're doing a cycle? How long into that cycle before you really actually start to feel the effects, like the extended endurance, the better recovery, the more muscle growth? How long does it take for you in a cycle to really start to feel those effects?
I would say general rule of thumb is about 3 to 4 weeks before you start to feel it and see it. And it just depends what you're taking, to be honest, and the dosage. I've had clients say, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I don't see it. And I'm like, give it time. And then all of a sudden, a week later, like, oh my gosh, I'm so strong. Oh my gosh, I have veins in my arms. I'm like, see, patience. And that's huge with it is just not trying to push it too fast and too much. I've had preps where I've taken so much gear and I wasn't getting the results that I needed. And then other preps where I've taken half of what I've taken before and I've gotten better results. So your body also, if you allow it to heal and reset, it you could have a totally different cycle each time.
In your opinion, is everyone that steps on that stage for pro shows, do you think that everyone's on at least something?
In every category except for bikini, yes.
Wow.
And even in bikini, I know most bikini girls are at least taking a couple compounds, including like clenbuterol for sure. So on on a pro level, if we're talking IFBB, Yeah, it's not a natural organization for a reason.
I was gonna say I was hoping that maybe there might be like that one genetic freak in there, but yeah, I mean that's one thing
Now,
that
I
I've
will
come to know.
say this, Juliana Malacarne, she did not run a lot of gear. She did not have to. She genetic freak. Most Brazilians are. Most African Americans. Shanique Grant. She didn't run a lot of gear, and some people just don't have to. But it all comes down to your work ethic, but also your genetics.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a big part too. And yeah, we had some of those close genetic freaks where you're like, yeah, they must not be on that much. But also when you're looking at, like some of these, horror stories that you see of bodybuilders in the past who have gone down, and when they're like 50 or 60, they have like lung issues, they have other problems. How much of that does that play into you where everyone deep down is probably thinking like, oh, if I just take just a little bit more, I'll be even better. How much of that, like knowing how that has affected people in the past, how much has that helped you say like, no, I want to be, a healthy individual when I'm 50 or 60?
So for me, being in the industry for 8 years and seeing so many great athletes die at such a young age for pushing that envelope, it has given me a lot of perspective, and it actually um, it got me to start doing my lab work in my off season. So typically, what I'll do is after a show, I'll wait until everything's cleaned out, about 6 to 8 weeks after a show, and I'll go get my labs done, and I'll see how much damage I did, and then I'll take the off season to fix myself and correct whatever's wrong. And then before I jump in a cycle again, I'll do it again that following year, right before prep starts. That to me is huge because ultimately at the end of the day, you can't just keep taking more and more and more of something. And who wants to have heart issues because they took too much clenbuterol, or thyroid issues from T3, and now you're on a drug for the rest of your life because you were stupid and ignorant and decided to take more of something because you didn't realize what the aftermath was going to be long after. And let's be realistic, how many of us out there, because this is a very saturated industry, how many of us out there really have the true potential to be really great? I mean, top 10 in the Olympia. And so you kind of need to think about long term after the sport. If you probably aren't going to get to that level, then is it really worth it? Like, is your life really worth, an NPC trophy?
Yeah, if you were to look at the general population of the US, like 320 million people, I'd say maybe there might be a few thousand that might have the genetics if they wanted to like really get into it. So yeah, it's so minuscule, but it's great that you're talking about this, and I really really appreciate it because I think a lot
Of
more
course.
people need to be because yeah, the only thing that really pisses me off the most is people who are clearly on it and then they talk about like, oh, you can get results like me if you just like do my weight training program and stuff like that, and it's like, oh my god. And then I have all these people that come on, they're like, "Oh my god, I want his arms or her back." And it's like, "Well, you better have a crap load of money for this stuff cuz it's not cheap too." But one thing with steroids too is that it affects your mind as well as your body. There are a lot of mental things that come along. I mean, there's always that classic roid rage which isn't, I mean, a lot of people have said, that's not really true. But how do those steroids affect you mentally when you're taking them? Cuz I mean, some of the stuff that you've listed, I mean, you're on a lot of stuff at times. So it's really, how does that mentally work for you?
Well, like I said, everyone's different, so I can only speak for myself. I'm not really an aggressive, angry person. I think I'm pretty um, I've been able to, as I mature and grow, I've been able to channel that, and so I utilize that in my workouts,
Well, I say
which
I say too
benefits
for like the
me.
whole I say too for like the whole roid rage thing I always say those are only the people that are naturally just angry without the stuff, and then taking the stuff just amplifies it. Because I always think with steroids, whatever your mood is like, it'll just amplify it really, and just so like if you, yeah.
Exactly. You're gonna have triggers, especially when you're in prep and you're running multiple compounds and you're so tired and you're in a caloric deficit. You're gonna have triggers. Little things are gonna set you off. For me, the biggest thing I think was taking so many anti-estrogens for so long. So my estrogen was really low and my testosterone levels were really high. And then after a show, your body doesn't really know how to find homeostasis. That for me is when I tend to have a big hormonal shift and I get really sad and depressed. And I remember there was one time I had just done a guest posing and I ran a cycle for it and it came off, and we were out Christmas shopping and I was just driving down the road and all of a sudden I started crying out of nowhere. And I knew I had to get to the doctor. I knew I had to talk to someone. I knew that something was wrong. And sure enough, my testosterone level was a 4. So get your lab work done. You know your body better than anyone and your mind better than anyone. If something feels off, just find out because there are so many people out there that are dealing with depression and suicide and have mental health issues that don't talk about it because of ego and pride. And it's okay to ask for help. Trust me, I asking for help saved my life.
Yeah, I couldn't say, as someone that suffers with depression myself too. That's why I've never taken any steroids or anything, because I don't know, that could just even make it even worse. So who knows where that'll end up? But you mentioned before when you were talking about you did oils, and for the general public, they don't know what that means. When you say oils, what are you referring to?
So there are orals and then oils. When I say oils, that's what most people think of steroids. They think of injecting like testosterone, tren, equipoise, primobolan, things of that nature. Currently, I am injecting Mastron. That's an oil. It comes in a vial. It's liquid, and you have to inject it into your glutes or shoulders. And so that's what I mean by taking oils.
Yeah, I think, yeah, because a lot of people just don't get that. But are you kind of like me, where if I ever get like a flu shot or anything like that, I can't work that arm for like a day? So do you have it timed out where you're like, if I don't have to work shoulders today, then it goes in the shoulder, or if I don't have to work legs today, then it goes in the glutes?
You know, yes and no. I like to train through pain. So for me, like training through it, like my shoulder is sore right now because that's where I pin last. Um, but training through that, I think for me helps break some of that up. So then it's not as sore as long. Doing mobility work obviously helps, but eventually you kind of become like a pin cushion.
Hmm.
So you don't really, it doesn't phase you anymore. You're not really sore from shots anymore. And I'm a girl, so I don't inject like a huge needle
Yeah.
with a ton of oils in it. It's just a little bit in a small needle. So it doesn't hurt that bad.
Other females that are competing like at shows, do you guys talk about that stuff at all, or is it kind of like just a secret that you guys say like we're not going to talk about this, or is it like something that is like discussed a lot in the female bodybuilding community?
I mean, we don't sit around
Oh
backstage
yeah, well
talking
yeah,
about
obviously, yeah, yeah,
like the steroids that we took to get there,
yeah.
but uh, I do make an attempt to be really good friends with a lot of the pro women physique ladies. They've so many of them, I mean, have been there ups and downs in my life, and so yeah, we will openly talk about it, and I've even helped people with their own cycle and their pros. So at the end of the day, we're all here to kind of help each other.
As someone who obviously naturally just has a crap load of testosterone, being me, what does that feel like when you have a lot of testosterone in your body, being that you weren't naturally born with a lot with? I mean, females do have testosterone, it's just they have drastically lower than men.
What does it feel like? Well, you're a guy, so you know what it feels like.
But I'm trying to ask.
Um,
Well, I'm asking someone who's never had that before they started taking it. So it's kind of like, it would be kind of like me if all of a sudden like I had like the emotions of a female and I started getting a little bit more emotional than I normally would, kind of.
to be honest, I think I like myself better when I'm on a cycle because I'm not so emotional. I'm not in my head. I'm not overthinking everything. I'm not like this little, this little girl with all these feelings and
I was gonna say,
emotions.
doesn't it feel good to not have as much emotion
Yeah,
as? I mean, that's what we
it
deal with every
does.
single day, and I love that. And that's the one thing about being a guy that I'd be like, okay, that's the definitely the best one, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And then, when it's time to go train, you turn that on and it just is awesome to be able to, for me, be as strong as most men or stronger than most men in the gym. And then the ladies are just like, whoa.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your kids' opinion about you being on steroids and stuff? Was it something that they had any thoughts about or against, or were they just some of the things where it's like, hey, if you do you?
You talking about my daughter?
Yeah. So like, what is she aware, what like, or
Oh
like
yeah,
how does she react to that?
she's
Because
definitely like walked in on me like pinning myself before, and I've just explained to her what they are, what they're for, don't touch them.
yeah,
Um, there's even a few times where like I let her inject my HGH just to show her like it's not harming me. My kid's so smart. She is also very like kind of over the whole bodybuilding thing, like mommy being a bodybuilder. So she's definitely loving that I'm switching gears this year. Um, I mean, she's 14 and I've been doing it for 8 years. So it's kind of most of her life. This is all she's known.
I was gonna say, thank God none of my parents were, because if they were leaving a needle around, one of us three, one of me and then my two brothers, one of us would have been an idiot and just like inject it and be like, I wonder what this does, and then yeah, and who knows? So yeah, that's a positive thing. But yeah, and when it comes also with this powerlifting too, it's also an adjusted mindset where you're going for strength as opposed to bodybuilding, where you're going for the aesthetic look. Has that been a positive thing for you, that mindset change, where it's like, no, I don't have to be checking myself out in the mirror constantly. I don't have to be worried about, if my veins are popping, or I don't have to be worried about this growth, where it's more about, I just have to worry about lifting more weights.
Struggling with body dysmorphia for 8 years and switching gears to not having to look a certain way, it really is hard. But at the same time, I'm so focused on what my new goal is that, when I don't really have to weigh myself right now, but we still see each other. We see ourselves in the mirror. We see, at the gym what we look like. And for me, like this is the heaviest I've ever been. I'm not comfortable in my own skin, and I'll admit that. I do have a desired weight that I want to get to in my off season, and I will. But for me right now, I just want to live my life and not have that pressure constantly put on myself, let alone externally from other people, like being judged of what I look like. And I want to learn to love myself from the inside out. And I'm just really blessed and grateful for that opportunity this year. So in a way, thank you, COVID and coronavirus, for canceling my show and teaching me about some self-love. And there's more to life than just bodybuilding and what you look like and what you weigh. And if you are struggling with body dysmorphia, maybe it's time to take a break from bodybuilding and switch gears. Get into powerlifting. You can weigh whatever you want. You can eat whatever you want, and you get really strong.
One thing that we talked about last time that's a question that I love to ask is because, like, if you were to walk out in public, even the way you look right now, you're going to get stares and you're going to get looks just because it's human nature when they see something that's not of the normal. Do you find that when you're on gear that you might react a little bit differently to people staring or the attention that you get? Or do you find that it's affected you at all? Where, I mean, some people have talked about how when they're on something, they're just a little bit more shy about it. They don't like to talk as much. Like, oh my God, you look amazing. How's that affect you when, I mean, you might get looks and stuff when you're on a cycle?
I used to get, obviously the cat calling at the gas station by men and like the little kids like pointing and laughing like, "Oh my gosh, look at her." Nowadays I'm just at a point in my life where people are going to say and do whatever they want to do, and if they want to talk to me about it and approach me, like I said, I'm so transparent and open and honest about anything. If it takes 15 minutes out of my day, I'll talk to anyone about any of it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. And the most important question that I was going to ask you about, especially steroids, and then we'll move on. I just have two more questions about it, but the most important one is, why do you think that it's such a taboo subject when it comes to bodybuilding, that more bodybuilders aren't open about it? Why do you think that it's become just this thing where, I mean, everyone knows that everyone's doing it, but no one will ever admit it or talk about it?
Well, first and foremost, it's illegal.
Yeah.
So if it's not being prescribed to you, you're breaking the law. So that's huge. I also think that there's just a big stigma put on it that it's wrong for females to do, and so females have always had to silence their voice in a sense. I also feel like some people just aren't willing to admit exactly how much they're taking to be at the level that they're at, and they want to appear and seem like, oh, I got to this level without having to do that. You don't need to lie to yourself or to everyone else. Like, we're not stupid.
Yeah. No, and that's, and I mean, I say the illegal part too, and it's like, yeah, the only thing I can really compare that to is, I mean, like in Minnesota, weed's still illegal, but you'll still have guys that'll just like smoke it out in public. But that's a
Exactly.
completely different thing. Where yeah, it's, and plus if it's part of the sport too, like if there was a mandate for baseball that you had to get high before every game, I don't think the players would admit to that, if they before they walked out on the stage. But when it comes to, I mean, there's so many different things where with steroids too, where people think that females are just taking the same thing that males take, where they're just like, people, first of all, they don't realize that there's more than one steroid. Like when you listed all that stuff, I mean, I think the general public, they just think that, there's anabolic steroids and that's it. And that's all anyone ever takes. But when it comes to the difference between males and females, how different is it in the amount of steroids that people take and, just the variety that they take in your
Oh my
experience?
gosh. So most men are running things like like pure testosterone. Women hardly ever do that unless they're put on TRT, like replacement therapy by their doctor. Most men are taking multiple oils in a needle at one time. Dosage wise, women are taking anywhere from like, 100 to maybe 150 milligrams a week. Men are taking up to 1,000 milligrams a week.
Jesus.
So we're at like a tenth of what men take, and we're at like things that are like 10 times less anabolic as well. So there are female friendly steroids out there. There are women that take things like Tren and Test and things like, I don't know, NPP, or I've taken Equipoise, like Sustanon. There's things that women take that they shouldn't. But for me, it's kind of like it's your life, and this is my life, and what I choose to do with it is on me. And the only person that can judge me is God. So
100%. Did you happen to watch when Ronnie Coleman was on the Joe Rogan podcast and he was talking about he said that he didn't even start doing steroids until after he got second place at the Olympia. So if you want to talk about genetic freaks, yeah, if you get second
Yeah.
place and you're all natural, that's geez, he was the one guy born for it. But yeah,
And I can say, like Keon Pearson, he's he ran like 2 compounds his first couple years. Like, they're just genetic there are genetic freaks out there, but
and I
there's not very many.
and I hate them with my whole life because they can like I told you
Yeah,
last time.
we feel like they have it a little bit easier.
Well, like I told you last time, I still have a friend that could eat 10 Snickers bars a day and he doesn't gain an ounce of fat. And it's just like, I hate, and sometimes for laughs, he would literally, when we were in college, he would send me videos of him eating like just a crap load of junk in just a night. And then he'd do like him weighing himself and it's the same weight as it was like 3 days prior to, it's just absolutely
Metabolic
ridiculous.
freaks, man.
Metabolic freaks, man. And I told him, I was like, just get me anything like that. But also, with this, transition that you're making, I feel like a lot of people have, especially in the past few years, they've gone from either, powerlifting to bodybuilding or bodybuilding to powerlifting. How easy, if you do eventually decide to go back into bodybuilding, how easy do you think it will be to make that adjustment? Because like you said, it's a whole different nutrition system. It's a whole different lifestyle. But since you have lived that bodybuilding life in the past, do you think it would be easy for you to transition? Or do you think it might be something where it might take a little bit more effort?
I was actually talking to my team captain today about that, and um, I don't think I'll be an old rusty car. I think that when it's time, you know, this is just this is a stepping stone. I'm not retired from bodybuilding. I still have the goal of making it to the Olympia stage. I have not even come close to stepping into my own potential yet. This is just a stepping stone so I can become a better bodybuilder. So when it's time for me to turn it on, I'm going to.
One thing that actually fascinated me too about steroids is that I've had guests on here that are in their 60s and they're women and they have bigger arms than me, and it's just like, what the hell's so in your research that you've done, because I have not researched steroids at all, it's something that I wanted to just experience sort of firsthand from a guest. If you're an older woman or even an older man and you take them, is there an added risk of side effects as opposed to when you're younger? Or have you done any research into that?
I mean, you definitely need to be cautious of your kidney and your liver and your heart. And like I said, the biggest piece that I can give anyone is make sure you're getting your labs done and you're seeing a doctor. And if you can't be honest with anyone, please just be honest with your doctor, because they know about this stuff more than anyone and they're going to discourage you from taking it. But if you tell them, I'm a bodybuilder, this is what I'm doing, I need your help, they will help you. There are actual like bodybuilding doctors in every city.
Yeah. So, obviously I don't want to like get into like how they're acquired, but like how do people just like ship them in and then like there's just a guy that just has them and then distributes them? Obviously you don't have to name names or anything like that, but like how does that work? Because like you said, normally you just have to go to a doctor and get these prescribed. So I don't know. Unless there's like one doctor that's like, just here's 10,000 doses of something here, just take them and sell them. But how in without like giving anything away, but like how is it distributed? How is it like under the counter? How do they do it?
Well, so there's a couple different ways that you can go about it. There are some sites online. It's shipped in from China
You
usually.
get those weird Russian
Um,
and China stuff where you don't know what the hell's in those things.
and that's the risk that you are willing to take. You may send money and never get anything. For me personally, being a pro, it's readily available for me. I have lots of sources. I can probably pull up 10 people right now that could get me anything. If you're a novice at this and you're looking to maybe start on something, hopefully you have a coach. If you have a coach, then they should be able to guide you in the right direction. If they're not willing to, then what I would say is maybe search for people online that are open to talk about it, like me. I definitely don't like being in the middle of any sort of transactions. It is still illegal, so um, usually it's not that hard to find. Just
Well,
like you
yeah.
can go out on any night in the city and probably find a multiple, amount of street drugs. It's not hard to find.
Yeah,
Really.
I've been going to bars uptown. Well, not this last year, but I remember like 2 years ago. One night I got offered heroin like 3 times. So it's like it's not that hard. Yeah, you don't even have to ask for. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the system that it really goes into. But when it also with this whole coronavirus, how has it affected? Like you said, you took all these weeks off. I also took like a month and a half off. What was that like for you when you first started to get back into lifting weights again? Because for me, I absolutely hate those first couple of days because it's just
Oh
you feel
man.
so weak. But what was that like for you when you first picked up those weights again after 11 weeks and just were like, oh my god, I
11.5 weeks off.
yeah.
It's the most I've ever taken off since I started lifting. The most I'd ever taken off before was like a week for vacation. Um, you know what? Honestly, I wasn't that sore, but I also was very smart about it. I didn't go in thinking that my strength was where it was before COVID hit. So I just more so was coming in just to show up, you know? Um, for me, I hit such a dark low rock bottom place during quarantine with depression and mental health issues that me just getting to the gym and releasing, some of those endorphins and just being around those like-minded people again, that was my saving grace. And I knew that my strength was going to come back rather quickly. I also knew I wasn't going to just jump on a cycle right away. I wanted to, get back into a routine of consistency with eating again and eating healthy and cleaning up my diet and then being in the gym and doing some cardio. And I think I was in the gym for about 4 weeks before I decided to jump into a powerlifting prep, which will be a 12-week prep.
So, I mean, I had it. I have a younger brother who it was his last semester in college when everything got shut down. What has it been like for your daughter doing the homeschooling thing, and how have you been dealing with that, having them at home? Because, like for me, me and my two brothers, my older brother came back just to stay with the family during the coronavirus because he just wanted to be around. So we had so many people in the house with nothing to do. But what was that like? Having your daughter home and having her do homeschool because I have teachers too that just talk about how bad that was and how much of a struggle it was.
Well, she actually did get depressed. She got really depressed from not being social, not being in her
Oh, I couldn't
environment
imagine
with
being
friends in
I couldn't imagine
school.
being 14 and not being able to see my friends. I mean, even at
Yeah,
25, I was having a hard time not seeing my friends. But at that age, where your whole entire life is your friends, basically, yeah, I couldn't imagine what that would be like.
yeah, and she already kind of struggles with some of that from some trauma that happened in her childhood. And the biggest thing that I would tell her is like, get outside, go jump on the trampoline, go blow up your mat and do some tumbling. Like, get outside, get out of that bedroom, get off that iPad, get off TikTok. She started actually taking up working out, and she loves it. She started running. She started coming when the gyms open back up. She started coming with me to the gym. I've taught her now how to squat and deadlift. She thinks it's awesome. Now she's super into it. And she's actually, she just tried out for cheerleading. And as a freshman, she's going to make varsity. So when it comes to like sports and genetics, I definitely pass that along. But it's funny you ask because now she wants to be homeschooled. She doesn't want to go back to school.
Yeah, well, it.
She's going
Or so
next week.
wait,
She's
so
going.
are you in Indiana?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what have they made any decisions yet about what school's going to be like in the fall?
So her particular school, they're starting July 30th. They start next week and they're going every day. But there are schools in surrounding counties that are doing like one day you come in and then the next 2 days you don't. And then like 2 days you come in and then the next day you don't. There's another um, county, I think they've pushed back their start date a couple of times now. So, I mean, I think every school corporation is doing something different here.
My face is like this because July 30th. What the hell? In Minnesota, we don't start until after Labor Day for schools. So
She
like
starts next Thursday, she starts
yeah, so
school.
so she starts almost like a month and a half before Minnesota. So when do they get out of school in Indiana?
The end of May.
Oh yeah, because but here's the thing though, we get out like the first week in June, so that's still like an extra
She
month.
well, she also gets 2 weeks for fall break, 2 weeks
Oh,
2
that's what
weeks
it
for
is.
spring break, and, like, 3 weeks
Yeah,
for winter break.
yeah, we get 2 weeks for winter
So
break, 1 week for spring, and 1 week for fall.
and
Yeah.
you don't you get, like, 4 days for fall break or something probably, like,
Oh yeah.
2
Oh,
days or
actually, fall
something.
break. Yeah, we go to school Monday, Tuesday, and then the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we have off. It's called
Yeah, she
MEA.
gets
Yeah,
2 weeks for fall break.
yeah. Honestly, though, I would enjoy a longer summer, though, personally, over that. But
Yeah.
hey, I mean, like, yeah, I friend. But it's interesting that they're opening up because even in Minnesota, they're talking about like, oh, we're probably just gonna have to go online. So that'll be interesting to see.
Starting, um starting Monday, Indiana is, mandating masks
Yep,
statewide. So, regardless where you go, you have to wear a mask.
they are doing that here on Saturday as well, which has
So,
been.
actually, yeah, yesterday was my first day at the gym where masks were required.
What was that like wearing a mask when you're working out? Because I'm one of those people where I just have trouble breathing in those things, and I couldn't imagine doing anything super stressful. So that's why I'm going to be working out in my parents' basement. This until this
I
all
mean,
blows over because I could not go to a gym with a mask on. Sorry.
it is what it is. For me at this point, if it's what I have to do, at least the gym is open. because I'm not going through that again where the gym wasn't open because I don't want to hit that low dark depression place again because I can't do what I love to do. So if I have to wear a mask, and my gym stays open, then I'll wear a mask.
At your home, did you have anything set up did you have any like dumbbells or anything set up for it when this happened, or were you one of those people
I
where you were
had I had a
yeah.
treadmill, but I used it like 5 times. I there was a multitude of things that happened in my life, and it all just kind of came crumbling down at once. And it was a struggle to stay alive every day, to be honest.
I've had moments like that too when I was a little bit younger. Yeah, some of those days, yeah, you could care less about working out or getting healthy. You're just focusing on making it through the day, and yeah, and I'm glad that you're still here, and I'm glad that you were able to push through because so many people don't, and it just it sucks. But I mean, always you could have always just used your daughter too as a weight too. I mean, that's one of the things too is just that's her punishment. She's got to be your squat bar or something like that. Who knows? But I think so it'll be interesting if they go back to school and they'll be like, oh, your daughter got jacked or something like that, working out all the time. So that should be fun. But are they doing like football and stuff in Indiana, or has that been canceled for sports?
I
You guys have an
mean,
idea?
they haven't been allowed to do stunting because stunt groups require you to not be socially distancing, but they're allowed to do like tumbling because that's one person at a time taking a pass. Jumping they're allowed to do because you can stay 6 feet apart, but they haven't been able to do any stunting. And then the schools have like laid out calendar and like times that only certain people can be there and like only a certain number of people. And then when she's walking around, she has to wear a mask. But as far as I know, I mean, it seems like they're just gonna start school and everything is gonna proceed as normal next week. So like we're doing school supply shopping this weekend and all that. But you can't even like go to the stores and try on clothes here. So
No, yeah, that's definitely going to be an interesting thing, and it's just an interesting time to be alive as well. And if we were to talk to a year from today, where would you like to be at in your overall health and fitness journey? Where are some goals that you would like to have achieved if we were to talk again a year from today?
hopefully we do talk again in a
We
year. It
will,
seems to be
yes.
our trend. I would love to be deep in bodybuilding prep, heading towards well the Tampa Pro probably. The end of summer is what I'm kind of looking at. And then qualifying for the Olympia. So those are my goals for next year.
Yeah, and that's just so great. And lastly, if anyone was ever thinking about, like taking steroids or getting on a cycle, what advice would you have for them before they get started? Because I've heard so many stories of people, when this is when the podcast is not recording because I don't want to publish it because it's none of my business, but they'll talk about how they know people that, just get started without any prior knowledge. And then next thing you know, or there's coaches that don't know what it does, especially to the female body because they're male bodybuilders and they don't understand. And we've had some bad stories where they take either too much or they take the wrong stuff. But what advice do you have for people that are just interested in maybe getting on something in order for them to not make those same mistakes that I've heard so many people make?
Absolutely. Well, my DMs are open anytime. If anyone has any questions, please feel free. I'm so transparent. I will talk to you about anything that I've done. I'll openly discuss. Other than that, I would say talk to multiple coaches, talk to multiple athletes, talk to pros, read forums, do your research. Um, just take your time. Don't be in a rush to jump into a cycle. Talk to lots of people, gather data, and then start, your own journey with it. And if you don't feel any sort of positive or negative effects, just slowly taper up. You can always taper back down. And just don't ever stop reading and gaining knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Yes, especially when it comes to your health. I couldn't say
Yeah.
that better myself.
And there's some things that you can never go back on once you do it. So be careful.
Yeah, that's the one thing too. I mean, especially for females, yeah, there's some of those things where I mean, as soon as you start, it can't go back. But I mean, again, Stephanie, we cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing this because you're the first. I mean, you're going to be like my 350th podcast, and like 250 of those have been health and fitness, and you're the first one that's come on and like openly talked about it. And I really, really do appreciate that because it is, a taboo thing that I don't think it should be, but like you said, it's illegal, so I can understand that 100%. But I mean, just that truth and that honesty that you have and how open you are, like you always say you are, and I couldn't agree more. And it's just so great to have that on and really be willing to share that because a lot of people I think have all these misconceptions about it and anything that we can do to sort of help bridge the gap between people. But again, yeah. And is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
I don't necessarily have anyone to give a shout out to, but I just want to tell anyone out there that does watch this, adversity builds character. So whatever you go through in life, just keep going through it.
Mhm.
You'll get there one day.
Yep. No, it's and life's always a journey. And I could tell you, I mean, when I had this first podcast as to when I'm having this podcast now, a lot of things changed, but it's taken a lot of hard work and it's taken a lot of words. I mean, I always wish I could do a thing where I could count how many words I've spoke on this podcast. It's at least over 1 million right now. It's got to be pretty close to that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just, and again, you know, I love having guests on and sharing their story. And again, I really appreciate that you were on and, you know, sharing this. And lastly, I got to ask, so when you are, you know, is there a certain date in mind that you plan on making that switch from powerlifting to bodybuilding? Do you say like, oh, by next January, is there a time frame that you have of when you're going to make that change?
You know, so
because like, what if you go to this
everyone
powerlifting
is,
myth and you absolutely kill it, and then you're like, okay, I want to be a powerlifter now forever.
and everyone's telling me that's what's going to happen because actually, you know, I'm so goal oriented that I do have big numbers I want to hit, and I'm looking at maybe breaking top 10 in the world on my first meet. So, and I'm such a driven person, and I hate losing that. You know, if I get close to that, you know, I'm telling myself maybe I'll do another one the end of this year, but then after that is I'm in a full swing, get to this off season weight that I would typically be at for bodybuilding. So I would definitely say probably January 1st ish. I'm gonna rehire my coach Shelby Starnes, and we're gonna get into an off season program and you know make our way towards that Olympia stage for next year.
Have you had, so, I mean, everyone knows this, but my worst thing is cardio. I mean, it's my pet peeve. I hate it more than life itself. Do you have any relationship with cardio at all now in powerlifting, or have you just said screw it?
I actually got in trouble my first week of powerlifting because I was doing cardio and my coach was like, "No, we don't do the stairmaster before we squat. It's not a thing." So I basically kind of for my own sanity and for mobility work, I'm just on my off days I'm doing about 20, 30 minutes, maybe go outside and walk, lots of stretching and foam rolling and seeing a tissue guy. Um, Honestly, the weight and the numbers that I'm putting up, it's cardio. So
Yeah, it's,
I, I do cardio when I work out.
I mean,
And my gym doesn't have air conditioning, so I'm sweating like no other. It looks like I jumped in a pool when I'm done with my workout.
oh my God, I hate those gyms. I mean, I've been to a couple of them where it's just like,
I love
why?
it. I've never sweat this much in my
Well,
life. And
here's
I
the thing.
feel
I'm naturally just the most sweaty person ever. Like, after I get done, even if I were to walk like 60 minutes, which is what I do now just because I have so much free time,
are you sweating right now just talking to
I'm
me?
sweating right now. I was talking. You can see, well, because my hair's super long. I got to get a haircut, but you know, it's been a while since
I'm sweating too. It's okay.
I mean, I'd have my uncle give me a haircut like a month and a half into the quarantine, and then so yeah, my hair is actually probably it's almost never been this long. So I gotta, but yeah, I mean, just even walking, even my mom was talking about because like I'll put my clothes in the dryer or whatever like that, and then she'll be like, Ryan, we need to put it in like a separate bucket or something because it's like you just came out of a swimming pool basically. When you come, like my pants and my shirt too, so it's like I'm just naturally one of those people where it's just that's why I hate going to public gyms too because I'm the one guy where I have to spray down and wipe down everything after I'm done using it because no matter what, and some people are even like there's still some stuff left on there, and I was like I just couldn't get it out. I'm sorry, like I honestly just couldn't.
Well, it has an over sebaceous sweat glands. That's what that's called.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a benefit though because like in sports, people think that I was trying extra hard even if I wasn't because you know I was just drenched in sweat. And they're like, yeah, I had a light jog for a little bit, and they're like, oh my God, you really look like you're working hard. So it does have its perks, but yeah, and I mean, yeah,
That's
cardio.
funny.
But again, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, go and give
You're
her a
welcome.
follow on her Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below, and if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about. Like she said, she's more than happy to answer anything from you. Obviously, if you're going to ask me about that type of stuff, I have, you know, I probably have like 1% of the knowledge that she has. So obviously, I'd say go and ask her. But again, the transparency and the honesty, I really, really appreciate on this podcast. And Stephanie, we wish you nothing but the best in this coming year. And hopefully, you know, things get back to normal. And who knows next year when we talk what life is going to be like. Because like I told you before we started recording, if you'd have told me that there'd be a global pandemic last year when we talked, I would have bet my entire life savings against it. So who knows? But everyone, yeah, just live your day. And again, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the Spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.